Welcome. So I am doing with working with functions of class 12 CBSE. The next topic we will be going ahead is passing the parameters. How do we pass the parameters? So when we talk about the parameters, we do have okay, so herein we will be going ahead with the different types of formal parameters or formal arguments, which are positional arguments. Then we have default arguments and keyword arguments. So these are the three different types of arguments that we can pass. Okay, now coming first to the position or required arguments. So whenever we pass the arguments, it needs to match the number of arguments with the number of parameters which is required. So if I say I give x, y and z, so I know that three values and all variables it needs to be passed. Here 2xy, so one literal and the variables needs to be passed, and here in this case 257 all are the literals. Okay, see, in all the above function calls, the number passed values, which is arguments, have matched with the number of received values parameters, and also the values are given position wise or order wise. So in this case, if I pass x, y, z, it needs to be in particular order. So arguments must be provided for all parameters, which is very much required. That is why the name required, and the values of the arguments are matched with parameters position in particular order. So that's the thing that needs to be followed in this case. So next, coming to the default arguments. In default arguments, how does it occur? What if we already know the value for a certain parameter? Like we know the value. What is the rate? Okay, so rate of interest is what? So in this case, we can provide the default value. Python allows us to assign default values to a function's parameter, which is useful in case a matching argument is not passed. So it is not mandatory, it is not required to pass that particular variable. So in this case, if you see, as it is given here, the default rate is given as 0.10. So now when I pass this value, I can just pass the principal and the time. If I want to change the rate, I can change the rate as well by passing the third parameter, which will get updated in this case. Okay, so this is how it occurs. Then the parameter principal is 6,100, time gets 3 and parameter of the rate is 0.15. So that is how it is occurring. Now, one very important thing you must know about default parameter is, in a function header, any parameter cannot have the default value unless all parameters appearing on its right have their default value. So first it should be the mandatory parameters, and then after that we have the default parameters. Okay, so once you have a default parameters, towards the right all the parameters should have a default parameters. So now if you look at this examples, if we have, that is interest, print rate, time and rate is equal to 0.10, whereas this particular is not accepted because rate also should have a default parameter. Otherwise time is a default parameter and rate is not a default parameter. So this is illegal. It will give me an error saying illegal, default parameter before required parameter. Okay, next, in this case also the same thing is happening. Alright, so the rest are legal. And default parameters are useful in situations where some parameters always have same value. Also, they provide greater flexibility to the programmers. Some advantages of default parameters are given below. They can be used to add new parameters to the existing function, and they can be used to combine similar functions into one. So I can add, if I have a default parameter, I need not think about anything, but I can add that parameter. Then keyword named arguments. So there are few keywords. What are keywords? Whenever I give the value to that, I always give the name. So you write any argument in order and provided you name it, so I can place it in any order. So otherwise, in the previous two cases, which was default parameters as well as positional or required arguments, it needed to be in order, whereas in case of keyword parameters, it need not be in order because I am placing the keywords in the argument. Okay, so now the keyword are the named arguments with assigned values being passed in the function call statement. Okay, now using multiple arguments types together, I can use multiple arguments types together. So Python allows you to combine multiple argument types in a function call, considering like we have interest 5,000 comma time is equal to 5. Right, so I'm sending a value of the argument, and I'm also using a keyword argument. Okay, so in this case I have used two different kinds of arguments. So Python states that in a function call statement, an argument list must first contain positional arguments, then followed by any keyword arguments, and keyword arguments should be taken from the required argument preferably, and you cannot specify a value of an argument more than once. So you cannot specify any value, so only once you will specify a value of the argument. So here we can see what are legal and what is illegal. So we find that if print is equal to, so both are given keywords, so keywords are given, yes, it is legal. Here in the second case, if I see, in the second case, first one I said that it is legal. Now coming to the second one, interest rate is equal to given principal, is also given CC. So their keywords are given, so obviously legal. Third one is also keywords are given, it's legal. Fourth one, I have passed the arguments which is there. We have the positional arguments which is there, and then we have the keyword argument or the default values are given. So it is legal. Next, I have the next one, interest rate is equal to 0.05 and then 5000 comma 3, which will not be taken because default parameters whichever we have the default value is given, then after that all should be given as default values in the same format. Okay, whereas the next one here, in this case, this is also illegal because multiple values provided for principal. So I have 5000 and again print is equal to 300. So there are multiple values which is provided, again illegal. Next, also the same undefined name used principal. So I have no variable called as principal, it is print. Okay, then the next one is also illegal because a required argument CC is missing. CC is a required argument which is missing. So there are so here we have the program that is given here. So here if I take this particular program, if you can see this particular program, so I have defined interest, principal, comma, time is equal to 2 and rate is equal to 0.10. So you do def interest of principal, comma, rate which is given as say 0.10, comma, time which is given as equal to 2 years, right? So this is how it needs to be going ahead, and I will go ahead in this. So now after that, what is my return? Return is nothing but print into rate into time. So this is my return value. Okay, so now if I want to use this, let me check it once, let me use this. So I can always tell it to print interest of say 1000. So I can go ahead, I can execute this program, and I will see that it has given me 200 as the interest. Now I can also tell it by changing it. I want to change the rate and all those things. So I want to print say 5000, comma, rate is equal to 0.2, comma, time is equal to 5 years. Okay, and I will enter. So if I execute, what will happen? Earlier it was 200 alone. Now it gave me an error stating time is equal to 5. Rate is an invalid. RATE. To 0. Okay, let me execute and see. Oh, sorry, I did not call the function. So interest, and I start the bracket here, I end the bracket here. So anyway, we have come out with an error over here, and we will be solving it across. So I will be executing it. So it is, see, 200 and I'm getting 5000. 5000, 20 into 5, that is again coming to 5000 simple interest. All right. So now how I will be going ahead? Now let me say I want to take the rate and interest from the principal rate interest from the user. So I can say input. Okay. Let me say trend is equal to input, input, enter the principal, fine. So this is done. So once the principal is added, then I'll try and find out what is my return. So I can say print, I'm calling the function interest, and I am passing print. Okay, I'm passing print. So that is it. So now let me find what is my rate of what am I getting. The next, enter the principal. I can enter 3000, and I need to go ahead. It will give me 600. All right, now next, if I want to change the rate and time, what do I do? Okay, so I can go ahead with print. So I can go ahead with rate is equal to int input, enter ROI or rate. Okay, in percent. So the percentage is, I'm specifying them to enter the rate in percentage. So what happens? ROI is equal to rate divided by 100. Okay, next, I am telling it to them to give time. Time is equal to int input, enter time period. Right, so here I'm having this here, enter. So I'm having this time, and now what I will be doing, I will be telling it to print interest of print, comma ROI, comma time. Right, so this I will be going ahead. Now let me execute this program and see. So I have been told to enter the principal. I have entered the principal as 2000. Okay, I want to change the rate of interest. I make it 20%, and then I enter the time period. I want it for two years. Then see, the answer comes as 800. So this is how the program will go ahead. Thank you.